Hello, welcome to another episode of the Cleveland Browns Dawgpound South podcast, part of the Fans First Sports Network. I'm Steve Gill. I'm your host. Got a lot to talk about today. I'll get to the game in a minute from Thursday night. If you follow me on my podcast, dogpoundsouth.net, the title was When Does a Tie Feel Like a Win? So we'll talk about that in a minute. But first, let's get to the whole reason that I do this podcast is because sometimes the media air in Cleveland gets polluted with a notion and it just steamrolls, it stampedes. And this was the passing game. Oh my God, after the Washington, the passing game, the long passing game. It's not there. I'm worried about it. It's just, I don't see how they're going to fix it. Well, true. I think what happened was during minicamp and the OTAs, when Marquise Goodwin was healthy and catching long, deep passes from all the quarterbacks, the media was thrilled. But when he got his reported that he had blood clots and he was no longer practicing, it went away. He wasn't catching those long passes. I think the local media up there in Cleveland got a little bit spoiled seeing these long passes to Marquise Goodwin. He is the fastest wide receiver. Maybe Schwartz, maybe up there with him, but he is the fastest wide receiver. But Schwartz, I don't think Schwartz is going to make the roster. I think he's a practice squad candidate at best. But anyway, so that's why I do this, because I take everything the local media, when they get into panic mode. I mean, it's freaking August. It's the preseason. You hear Joe Thomas on the radio. You hear one of my favorite, Gerard Cherry. Guys with NFL experience, and the local media goes, is he showing too much? Is he showing too much? Is Stefanski showing too much of the offense? And they both sit there and go, no, not really. It's mostly vanilla. That's what I expected. So why would he show long passing routes? I mean, I'm not worried about the passing game. I am not worried about Deshaun Watson. Like I said, I went back and watched his when he played for Houston in 2018, 2019. This is the Deshaun Watson we're going to get. And speaking of, I fully expect, and this has been reported in Cleveland, that the starters will play, minus Nick Chubb and Myles Garrett, in the first part of the next game in Kansas City. I don't think it's going to be a half, but I know it's not going to be one series for both. So rest assured, and plus the time off. I mean, we're talking about August 26th all the way to September 10th. So, yeah, I expect them to play more in Kansas City. And I fully expect Andy Reid and the Chiefs to start Patrick Mahomes and most of their starters as well. I mean, he's shown in the past that he does that. So, that said, little news. I'm recording this early because I'm going to be on the road on Monday, heading out of town for a quick vacation. But news today, Joel Bitonio, restructured contract, saved the Browns roughly about $9 million, brought their cap space up to 22.6, which is second behind Arizona. They are no longer number one in cash spent. That belongs to the Jets, of course. And the Browns are second in cash spent. There's a difference in salary cap and cap spent. Cap spent will be much greater. Cash spent will be much greater than the salary cap because it takes into all the, signing bonus and things that don't, upfront cash that doesn't count against the cap. Third is Baltimore because they're paying Lamar Jackson $80 billion. So that's good. Now, do not expect the Browns to go out and spend any of that $9 million. What they're doing is they're setting it up so they can carry this money forward next year when they are desperately going to need it. They are going to need cash added to what the expected salary cap to be, which according to Over the Cap is supposed to be $256 million, which they're pretty close. I mean, they only missed this year's cap by $200,000. So I'll take their word for it. So this money is going to go for the future. Will they do any other restructures? It wouldn't be nice if Myles Garrett did a restructure and Amari Cooper. Let's see if they do that. That would be great. I mean, that would give them even more flexibility. The whole idea is to keep a talented roster as long as possible, spend the money when your opportunity, your window of opportunity is open to make the playoffs and go to the Super Bowl. And I think this team is prepared to do it. They're setting up not just for 2024, but beyond, especially 2025 when things might get a little bit hairy. So that's what's happening today. On to the game against the Philadelphia Eagles. I consider this a tie a win. Simply, I'm looking at the entire week, the scrimmages and the preseason game. Scrimmage 1 went to Cleveland by virtue of their defense. Scrimmage 2 overwhelmingly went to Philadelphia, again, by virtue of their defense. I was really impressed in the first half when all the second teamers, if you had noticed on Philadelphia's defense, they were playing some starters. I mean, they had some starting linebackers. They had their number 1 draft pick in there, defensive end. They were playing some starters against the Browns' number 2s. First series, man. DTR takes it right down the field, 75 yards, 12 play. Forget the fact that John Kelly fumbled going in, trying to get into the end zone. John Kelly will not be playing. It would be Nick Chubb. So I was just very impressed. We did see some long passes in the first half with DTR. And I'm very impressed with this kid. Is he going to supplant Josh Dobbs? No. They are not gonna try to slip Josh Dobbs. They're not gonna cut him and hope that he re-signs with the for the practice squad. That's not going to happen. Somebody's going to claim he has NFL experience. Look at the situation in the NFL with starting quarterbacks. Look at who some of these teams are starting. I mean, it's a bad situation in a lot of teams. Luckily, the Browns have a franchise quarterback, and I feel better with a number 2 backup having NFL experience. Sure, Josh Dobbs didn't play well in his first exhibition game. We'll get to see more of him against Kansas City. He'll get reps this week, and then he'll have a lot of practice time before September 10th. And again, DTR, Dorian Thompson-Robinson, will not make the practice squad. I keep saying this, and I'll pound this into the ground. Other people agree with me. They have to carry 3 quarterbacks on their final 53. In the past, they've done 2. The last 2 years, they've done 2 quarterbacks with somebody on the practice squad. They cannot afford to lose Dorian Thompson-Robinson, and he would be scooped up in a heartbeat. So, other than that, I'm very impressed with the offensive line. DeJuan Jones looked good. I think James Hudson played better. Got called for the stupidest holding call I'd ever seen in my entire life. He didn't even hold the guy. The guy was on the ground, for Christ's sake. He fell down. I mean, how can you hold somebody when he's fallen down? Maybe he was trying to hold him up so he could practice his tackling. I mean, practice his blocking. But, that was stupid. Nick Harris played extremely well at center. And I noticed again, Luke Whippler playing right next to him at left guard. Keep an eye on that when you're thinking about the 53-man roster. Nick Harris played good enough to start at center. You got to remember, last year, he beat out Posick for the starting center. He beat him out before the first preseason game. Then he got hurt. Nick Harris will either be on this roster if they put Whippler at backup guard, or he's going to be starting for another team. If they can work out a trade, I'm sure they would do that and get something back. Michael Dunn is the most underrated backup offensive lineman on this team. He can play center. He can play guard. He just goes out there and does the job. Let's take a quick break. We'll come back and I'll talk more about the offense. And man, number 2 defense. Okay, I think we're fine at wide receiver. I really do. If Marquise Goodwin is placed on a non-injury football list after the 53 comes up, I think Austin Watkins is going to make this team. Now, you might ask, well, what happens with Hakeem Grant and Jalen Darden? They're return guys. Well, if you haven't noticed, Demetric Felton's been doing a lot of return duties. And last year, the kick returner was Jerome Ford, and the punt returner was DPJ. So I have a feeling that, and I still think they need a backup, a veteran running back, but so far I've been impressed with Demetric Felton. So I would think he might make it as the third. The only thing that bothers me, he can't pass protect. They got to really work on his pass blocking. But I think he might make the team as a running back / return guy. And he also gives you insurance as a wide receiver. I still think they're going to carry 6 wide receivers, 3 tight ends, 3 running backs, 10 offensive linemen. You can't convince me, and 3 quarterbacks. You can't convince me of otherwise. I can be comfortable with Felton as the number 3 back. I'm a little more comfortable with DeJuan Jones and Hudson as the backup tackles. Also, I thought the 2 veteran guards that they have, Gossett and Martin. I think Martin is playing much better with the more time he gets than Gossett. So he could be a practice squad guy. So, and as for tight end, luckily Harrison Bryant's going to be back this week because none of the tight ends did anything Thursday night. Defense. Oh my God. These are the backups. They were all over the number 2 offense for the Eagles. I mean, man, another safety, 2 games, 2 safeties. Can anybody out there remember the last time the Browns got a safety in a regular season game? I can't. Another interception for Ronnie Hickman. Then he got a concussion, and now he's been cleared of the concussion protocol, so that's good news. Defensive lineman, I'm glad to see Shelby Harris. That was a great signing. He is such a good veteran. I mean, if you watched him during that game, his recognition, defensive recognition is outstanding. It's like he knows what's going to happen before it happens. Jordan Elliott, again, starting. Odd. Very odd. No one really special at defensive end. Isaiah McGuire, he had a better game than he did against Washington. But that might bear watching come cutdown day, which is the 29th of August. That may bear, if a good veteran defensive end is cut, I'm sure the Browns are going to call. Linebacker. Oh my God. Diabate. Diabate deserves to be on this roster. That kid he's not great in spaces occasionally, but his recognition is phenomenal. Tony Fields will make the roster. I'm just impressed with this kid. He's good. And in the secondary, Cameron Mitchell showing what he's got. I think they're going to carry 9 defensive linemen, 6 linebackers, and probably 6 corners and 4 safeties. And speaking of safety, Ronnie Hickman is really pushing D'Anthony Bell. I've always liked D'Anthony Bell because of what he brings, special teams. But Bubba Ventrone's special teams is more linebacker oriented than it is secondary oriented. He likes linebackers. He likes fast linebackers in his special teams. That's why I think Diabate has a chance because he is quick, and Tony Fields is a great special teamer. So just remember that when you're thinking about all this stuff, because the cut down date, I really can't see any teams making heavy duty cuts between now and next weekend. You still got one more game to play. And it's such a long layoff between the 26th and when the games really start. I mean, it's over 2 weeks. So teams want to get as best looks as they can as these young players. Now let's talk about the practice squad. 16-man practice squad. Of those 16 players, 6 can be vested NFL veterans with 2 or more vested years. So that leaves 10 of the practice squad to be one-year players or rookies. So when you're thinking about, well, this guy will make the press squad, this guy will make the practice squad, and they're 3-year veterans, there's only 6 positions available. And they're going to keep backup wide receivers. He's going to keep a backup tight end. He's going to keep some defensive linemen, linebackers, especially what happened last year, and maybe an offensive lineman and 2, and hopefully a kicker. Let's talk about Cade York. I don't think they're going to cut him. I don't think they're going to bring a veteran in like Robbie Gould unless he goes out against Kansas City and just bombs, misses everything. Has like 2 field goals and 2 extra points and misses all 4. Then you're going to see a veteran. But right now, I think it would, and it's too late. I mean, they should have done this beginning training camp. Bring in some competition. Bring in somebody off the street. At worst, it'll give them a little competition in training camp and in practices. Also, it'll be a nice sounding board for both of them. I know when I'm with a Browns fan, a couple of Browns fans, and we're talking Cleveland Browns, it's we're not arguing, we're not debating, we're having a skull session about the team. It never hurts to have a sounding board. Never hurts to have a sounding board. So I think they're going to keep him unless he totally bombs out. If he bombs out against Kansas City, then Andrew Berry's too smart to realize this is one of those years where the window of opportunity is wide open, and they have to have a reliable kicker. And getting to the rest of the special teams, I thought one of my biggest things is coverage units. They have just gotten worse and worse and worse. But this preseason, they've gotten better every time. Punt, they had the first punt was an 11-yard return by the Eagles. After that, the punt return unit did a great job. They had a couple little long kickoff returns late in the fourth quarter, but those guys weren't going to be on the roster anyway. When the guys that mattered were in, they made the difference. So I'm very happy with the way Bubba Ventrone has made the coverage units better game after game after game. Let's see if he can do it with Cade York. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. What else is there to talk about? Not much. Going into Kansas City, noon game. Again, NFL Network. Oh, also injuries. Luckily, only a couple guys who were day-to-day, and Ronnie Hickman, who was cleared of concussion. If I was an Eagles fan, I'd be worried about that. It seems like they were dropping like flies the entire game. I mean, they carted a couple guys off the field. That's wow. I'd be worried if I were the Eagles about their depth, but they're still the team to beat in the NFC. They are. They are better than anybody in the NFC. And for the Browns to play him to essentially a tie for the entire week, for that 4-day period, I am very happy in the direction this team is going. The offense, believe me, is very vanilla right now, and Jim Schwartz is just showing enough. He's doing a lot of secondary blitzes, which I love. He's got the players to do it. I can't wait for game one, but right now we're going to get ready for Kansas City. Again, it's going to be vanilla. Let's see what the Cleveland media panics over next week. I'm sure they got to find something to talk about this week. It won't be the offense, I guarantee you, because they look good. They look good. And the defense, flying to the ball, getting turnovers. I love it. Getting sacks, 6 sacks. And again, second safety in the preseason. Phenomenal job. So that's it for me. I will be on the road on Monday. I'm heading out for a little R&R vacation, something to clear my mind to get ready for the NFL season. Again, this is the Cleveland Browns Dawgpound South podcast, part of the Fanatical L's Network, which is part of the Fans First Network. Follow us, subscribe. You can subscribe and follow Apple, Spotify, YouTube. We're all over the place. Again, Google Cleveland Browns podcast. We're in the top. We're up there in the top, and it's all because of you who are watching this, listening to us, following, and subscribing. So thanks again from Nashville, Tennessee. Go Browns.